Okay, I want to start off with, I heard that this started off as a Word document that might have been the most chaotic ever written on a Microsoft Word application. Can you confirm the rumours?
That sounds like it tracks. Yeah, it was, I couldn't afford a final draft for a start. So I wrote like a version of this in a Word document. I think when is my posture okay?
You're looking good.
Yeah, thanks. I think when I pitched this film, I pitched it as like an album. There was a side A and a side B, and every scene was a track, and there were interludes that punctuated it. So for me to formally experiment with what the structure looked like, I needed like kind of like a fluid place to be able to move things around. I was quite comfortable with Word.
Is this an advert for Microsoft?
Microsoft Word.
Sorry, they're not the sponsors.
Wait, I think they might be on the boycott list. Can you edit this out?
Yeah. Did you guys see this unbranded document?
I might have seen a bit of unbranded document. There was a PowerPoint. Oh no, that's Microsoft as well.
No branding.
There's a lot of documents. It was like a 200-page document just on costume. It was like 100-page just on the history of like the Lacoste polo in cinema, in French films specifically.
Oh wow.
Which makes it into this film. So yeah, he's fairly well studied. But we love it, right? Like like it's homework. It's like a really good teacher. You love the subject, they love your engagement with the subject, and they just give you all this homework. You're like, yeah, more homework. It's great.
So you guys, you've always championed like first filmmakers kind of coming out. What was it about, I guess, working with Naqqash that you kind of really shined about signing on for the film, especially as it's quite disturbing?
He's not disturbing,
But
he's super intellectual. And like Nabhaan was saying, the Bible that he gave us, I mean, it would give like Philip Pullman a run for his money. It was like amazing, filled with like colors, shapes, paintings. He doesn't have movie references. He has photos of people and like references to like characters that he likes in movies, or something like that. But like, so it was, and also the script wasn't exactly linear, so we kind of had each other to kind of go by and know where we are, where we're standing and stuff, and it was such a playful experience for everybody. So
you did get a script though at the end with like dialogue, everything.
Yes,
You did, yeah?
there was a script, I can confirm. Yes, and it was that really, on the back of your point, like it wasn't linear, but it somehow felt so cohesive. Like there was such a sense of clear structure and anchoring. Almost like formal structure, you could feel it, you understood what the story was, but it was like fragmented and like a watercolor, some kind of poem, but you understood it as a whole thing. And it's quite unusual to get a script that felt so, buzzword, like authentic, you know what I mean? Like it felt super new.
I think we're so used to, I guess, stories that grapple with identity, and I guess we're talking about late-stage capitalism. There's a kind of like social realism, but this felt very social unrealism. I guess, could you kind of tell me a little bit more about creating that and having this like fairy tale world for the characters to navigate?
Yeah, I think my central point is like, as a director, I'm only interested in life as it feels, not life as it is. So that was all the decisions, whether it's like collaborative decisions we made on performance or the color or the sound of the music. It was all about like, this is what life feels like for these people, for this character, and approaching it from that point of view. Because I don't think you can ever essentially like capture life anyway. And I think to me, like films are inventions that you're making with all of these collaborators. So it felt like we were always like gravitating towards that shared, imagined space of like pure feeling almost.
And I guess, how did that, like knowing that knowledge, inform your performance?
I go back to the study, but I'm going to caveat that and say it wasn't like before a take I was like studying that Franz Fanon essay that Naqqash sent me before a take. Like it wasn't like that. It was a very studious process. But then we had 2 weeks of rehearsals, which is incredible, especially for a film like this, and that allowed us to get the film in our bodies and move away from logic. And that a mantra of like how something feels rather than how it is. Like when you go into an audition, it it's not me and like 20 brown men standing in a room like that with no chairs. Like, but we just wanted to show you how it feels and how it smells. So like all of that knowledge and information was there in order to not intellectualize, but actually do the other thing.
And like Amir, I guess, you know, that I think BFI did recently like an acting hard kind of program investigating what like masculinity kind of. Then you've talked in the past about kind of watching a lot of working men, angry young men films in the past. I guess for you, navigating Conrad, and I guess each of you, because your own identities are brought on that. How did I guess your understanding of like films that you might have seen, like Egyptian cinema or like North African cinema, informed how you would present your character when also delving into this big idea of what masculinity is?
That is an amazing question. I don't know if I'm
go.
even equipped to answer that question. That's why we've got the best to embarrass us on stage. But I think what was really nurturing about this experience, as opposed to what I'm used to, the fact that we had that rehearsal period, we were kind of sussing each other out. His headshot gave me problems. But then meeting him...
It's a true story.
Every time.
Comes out every
Oh,
time.
please elaborate.
Oh, turtleneck, like, looks like a poet. I don't even... And but then you meet him, and then one of the like most like warmest, beautiful people I've ever met, honestly.
It was a real like
Nabhaan.
soft boy set.
Yeah,
It was
off the
really-
but I think,
really
like, off the
intimate
back
and
of
really
that, 'cause
sweet.
I know that does come up. I think that is such an important thing, is that this idea of masculinity, right? Because we have all been raised in a culture where we're like almost encouraged to present a certain form of masculinity, and because the film literally looks at this industry, like so many of us guys, like male actors, have spent so long trying to present a certain form of masculinity because they were the jobs that were available, right? And like, I'm a gay man, and I've spent most of my career actually trying to navigate that space. So to walk into a film like this, where like you could just like exhale,
Breathe. Yeah.
and it encouraged this thing in our relationships where offset we'd go and like have dinner or whatever, and we'd just be having conversations where we're actually talking about our feelings. And that for me is quite a special thing as a gay man to have with straight men. And that space is very much, for me, present in this piece of cinema. Yeah.
And I guess like the idea of, I guess it's called In Camera, it's about the perspective, what you're seeing, the gaze that we're looking at it through. And of course, again, we've got the kind of history of how men have been presented on screen. I guess like working together as well, your kind of intention for how you wanted maybe like avoid the tropes that are kind of inherent, or like the factory settings of when we make films. How kind of were you trying to work with, I guess, a cinematographer and also your actors to try and like have your own perspective?
Yeah, I mean, it's a super laid question. I think I was watching a lot of like the angry young men films from the British New Wave, and I just think like the actor as a subject is like a really interesting sociological document, because like everything someone brings to a job, their body, their race, their gender, what they look like, it's there, it's present, you can't avoid it, you can't not talk about it. And when I was looking at those like actors like Richard Harris, Alan Bates, those kind of angry young men, they contain so much of their time, and they've become such a document for like post-war Britain. And I was thinking a lot about, well, what is that today? And it's like that angry young man is dissolved into this kind of like anxious young man. And that was something that I was really interested in exploring. And in terms of the other things is like, I think a lot about like what it means to facilitate space as a director. I think it's really important to facilitate an environment where people feel really safe to have bad ideas, because bad ideas are like some of the best ideas sometimes. And I care more about like the process of collaborating than I do with this like end result. So collectively to be able to facilitate this space with these amazing, incredible people and artists, it felt very freeing, I think, for us all. Like the rehearsals aren't like, let's sit and talk about the text. It was like very much getting to know each other.
You said a lot about that passive protagonist thing.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
with men being passive.
Completely, yeah. I think like throughout this film, even before making this film, but like one thing I was learning throughout is like people don't like passive men. People love passive women. We as a culture, as a society, love it when a woman is passive. We seem to have like this inherent problem of like seeing a passive man on screen. And Nabhaan and me, when talking about Aden, because we developed it for like 6 months together, we were talking a lot about like him stumbling and mumbling and his physicality and posture not being active, and what it means to be a passive subject, you know. And there's something really fascinating about that as a construction, but we were just like developing this kind of what we kind of called like an anti-acting style, where it's like kind of an acting style that is not capital A acting. It's kind of not being like almost resisting the camera's gaze, not wanting to be perceived. Because that feels really truthful in this kind of like post Edward Snowden Kardashian world where everything is so like reality is so warped and proper. To see someone kind of like stumbling and mumbling and being really authentic feels really refreshing. So when, at the beginning of this project, I almost had like an acting methodology, or again, it sounds all very academic. It's not. It's like instinctive what I wanted to find, but I'm not an executioner. I'm not like this is what you're gonna do, Nabhaan, Amir, or like do this. It's like I'm always looking for it to go on a journey with someone and to find it together.
The rehearsals were very cyclical, so and no take was ever the same. So even in the rehearsal period, we we repeat the same scene over and over again from different positions, just kind of a different take or a different action or feeling.
And it's like deeply collaborative. Like Amir's dialogue in this film, like a lot of it is coming from Amir. Like he's saying the text, but he's all of three of them are like reinventing the text, and a lot of that started in the rehearsal because I would say, let's do the lines, and how can you do it without the lines? And then I would, like, with their permission, take stuff and put it back into the script. Like the script was always responding to like what was in front of me. Like me and Nabhaan would have these like 10-hour meetings in like coffee shops where we'd go through all of the script, and Nabhaan would give me like the most minute details and ideas, and I would just like respond to it as like a live document, because I think I want to like find things with people, you know. I don't want to be like, this is like, I don't believe on the lie of like, I have this movie in my head, I need to make it. It's like, well, this is a collaborative medium. You're really looking for something with someone, and at least for me, like, I only want to do this because I love working with actors, and I love finding this thing together. And my favorite stuff in this film is like when we're rolling and we don't really know where we're going, and I would give new dialogue in the scene, or Nabhaan would follow an instinct, or someone would do something that was so interesting that you would just want to then follow that. And then it's about like, how do you be responsive to that in a practical way, but also in a creative way?
Well, Nabhaan, Aden is so impenetrable when he's Aden. And then I love every time he's doing a performance, it's like, oh, he's adopting it. And it's, I mean, that must be so like juicy as an actor to do. Can you tell me about shooting it, and when you weren't shooting in order, I guess, but like, I guess how was that navigating this role, then doing the role as Aden doing the performance, and then Aden, I mean, the final bit where he's auditioning as Conrad's personality, but then trying to get his role. I love it. It's layers.
It's a masterclass.
It is.
Incredible performance.
Well, it was so refreshing, because I think what became apparent is that as a performance, this is going to be like the most internal performance, and that's hard. That's hard to like depress yourself, you know what I mean, down to that, and like every instant you have to do something or make a choice. Like the camera's still rolling, 5 minutes, 6 minutes, 7 minutes, and you're there with Naqqash, and it was kind of like this like hypnotic like fugue state we'd get into, because the camera we'd leave it rolling, and Naqqash does his voice. And do you guys remember when like the camera's left rolling after the scene, and he's like, okay, Nabhaan, in a minute. He just like goes into this like voice of God thing, and it's amazing. You're just like you're having that exchange, but it's really difficult to keep that performance down. So the moments I did have to in the auditions and stuff, and because I have a goofy side as well, and we could be silly and we could try stuff. So yeah, even like that throwing up felt like weirdly cathartic, because it's just like so much we're holding in that film, like emotionally.
Yeah,
the situations we're putting ourselves in is like
Yeah, how many people wanted to throw up as well after that scene? I think I
Sorry,
did.
I'm one of those as well.
Get like branded sick bags for the rest of the
It's
release.
banana milkshake, by the way.
Oh, nice.
Fun fact, in
There
case
you
you were
go.
wondering. It was, right?
I don't even remember that.
I think it was banana milkshake, but then they put like a bit of veg in it.
Oh,
sorry.
nice.
I was in it. I was doing it.
Isn't it? Amir, like, I feel like Conrad, he's so silky smooth, but he's also kind of like...
Silky smooth.
Suave.
Put it on the poster.
Suave.
No, but he's like, you know, like, in contrast to like Bo and Aden, he seems to have a lot of things figured out. And I guess your performance in that, in contrast to Aden, because there's almost this kind of doppelganger-esque Edgar Allan Poe like duality
Yeah, yeah.
here. How is it kind of understanding your role in I guess in contrast to Aden and working in the band to kind of work out, because you know there's those sequences together. There's so much
Yeah.
friction.
A lot of it was down to like sitting down and chatting about references, and a couple people kind of came up in conversation. One was Muhammad Ali and Jean-Paul Belmondo, and the way they fill up space and how they take up space. And he was very adamant to like kind of just exert myself in any scene, and also the way it was shot as well. Like Tasha, is she here? Is Tasha? The DOP. Like, so whenever I was in a scene, it would be a wide or a kind of a
Yeah, we gave,
mid,
so
right?
like the construction of the camera language was like, I told Amir to like, he's going to be using a lot of his body, whereas the rest of the characters are very constricted. Like we don't see them use a lot of their body. Like Amir doesn't have a close-up in this film at all. Like he's using a lot of his body all the time, and that mobility is just not extended to Aden at all. And I felt like that would give this kind of like almost unconscious, like you can't breathe almost, and then he has so much space to breathe, and then Aden doesn't, and then it's all about like space and bodies is something I think about like quite a lot.
And I guess Rory Bo, oh man, I feel so bad for him, even when he like confuses, that really awkward moment it confuses Aden and Conrad.
Oh,
You could,
yeah.
I guess for you, like, I mean, it's so
I
interesting.
remember walking away from that scene and I didn't realise that it could be that. And it dawned on me like the next day. Because I was so like, I'm tired, I need to get to work. Like
Well, I
get
had
the
to protect you
sandwich in the
from that
bag. Like that, I was just focused on like where he needed to get to.
Yeah.
But then that hit me and I was like, fuck.
Oh, I love that.
Like this is
Because then you would have
fuck.
played it differently.
Yeah, that's
This
so
is really
interesting.
layered.
So was it kind of an early, when did you shoot that? Because again, getting that
can't
sort of
remember.
like, I guess like unvarnished reaction, you're not knowing exactly
But
the context.
it's the way like Naqqash holds the thing, you know? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the way he holds the thing.
There's like a late understanding of acting of like what people think we do, which is becoming other people, right? And like this film takes that to the extreme. So what if someone actually thought that was their job as an actor, to literally become someone else? And we take that to the extreme, both in the like figurative and the political. Why we do what we do is to feel more of ourselves, or I speak for myself, like, I don't know, there's maybe like a more, I don't know, fantastical, I don't know, spiritual like version of this film in like a parallel universe where there's a guy who like through acting gets to experience like all the breadth of experience through like playing other people, and it's like really beautiful and enriching, but it's just not, because like we live in this world and not in that world.
And I think there's a difference between getting to actually do the artistic side and the industry.
Yeah.
And I think that's where this piece for me feels like we're
Both.
coming into contact, but we're looking at the industrial nature of the monopolization of people and the objectification of people. But when one gets to paint, like making this piece, like this is why I personally want to act. But all the other stuff that goes with it, I mean, that's a daily like journaling, isn't it? Like what am
It's
I
like
doing
the
with my life?
it's a self-scrutiny as opposed to like a self-inquiry.
But I guess what you've said before about the point of this act, the reason that they're actors is just because that's sort of, we watch things on TV, it's an accessible way to understand the way that systems are created, to create differences, there's the line, we're the new currency, about how our identities are used in a way to make money, but you're not actually in control of how it's done, those scenes. So I guess, if you go back to Shakespeare, it's like, all the world's a stage and all of us are women are mere players. So I guess that was a big part of it, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, when I wrote this, I was an academic teaching like English literature. I had no access to the film industry, so this isn't me like satirizing the film industry. I just genuinely just got here. I didn't know anything about it, but it was like, I feels like it was a film about looking, what does it mean to be looked at and what does it mean to do the looking? And the actor was just the perfect metaphor for that. And I think, acting, it's a lot about like agency as well, like actors are artists who like have something to express, and I think I was really interested in like what happens, at least on a conceptual level, like when you like deny someone their agency, which is also kind of interlinked to acting. So acting was this constant metaphor, but I think we are all actors, like in our everyday lives. We live very hyper-performative lives. We live very...
digital pageantry.
Yeah.
Everything we post on social media.
Completely. So I feel like everyone can kind of relate to that.
But there's also that playful side as well, like, playing to your inner child.
Yes.
The kid that wants to always come out and
See, you do acting on
something.
inner child, or you do therapy with inner child work.
Absolutely.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it.
I think the answer is kind of in your question. Like this, to me, it's a film about labor too, and I was really interested in like the labor of being an actor. And I thought it'd be interesting if like his like best role, where he's actually making artistic decisions and isn't like being stifled, is like in the real world, and how sick that is. But also like someone paying him to do that. So I kind of don't know how to answer your question in a really like neat way. Yeah, but I also was kind of like, I can do a normal film, Like, let me do 10 minutes of just like doing a drama. Because I feel like the film is like an actor. The film is like being all of these different things. And I was kind of hyper aware that I was constructing something that was kind of like, I don't know if maybe you would agree with this, but like, it felt very like realist. It felt like, and also like it's a performance within a performance again. Nabhaan's like doing so much duality in it, where it's kind of like, he's playing he's acting. And the situation is very clear for him, but the lines are blurred for everyone else. But I don't know if you want to speak to that.
Yeah, you had a great note when you like in directing that, when you were just like, Aden just sees this as a job, and that's kind of what got me through it, even when we were doing it.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's the labor aspect of it, which was like super gross and like dicey waters. But
I kind of like the juxtaposition there between the labour of acting, but also the labour of being a junior doctor, and like that effect. I think that was really interesting. Rory, sorry to jump on that question, but like, like understanding that in relation, I guess, knowing how to play it, especially in the world what you're doing, where it is like far more, I guess, surreal, dreamlike, because he's kind of in a state of like, doesn't know if he's awake or not, I guess, a lot of the time.
But the question being...
Yeah, so the question being like, how did you kind of understand the labour of kind of being this junior doctor, and how that kind of...
Well, literally, because there was a scene in the script where Bo was doing a consultation with Aden in a doctor's surgery, because he had a pain in his shoulder, was it? And before we shot that, I called a friend of mine's sister, who is a doctor, to be like, how do I examine somebody? And she talked me through what the kind of questions I'd ask. So quite literally, like, that's how I manage that part, because the rest of it is so poetic.
you're
that-
climbing into washing machines and buildings,
Yeah, that it's
kissing,
like,
making out
that's
with
something else,
Yeah.
vending machines.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a
love
lot
the
that made
film,
this
the
film,
vending
guys.
machine.
Directors edit. I would say radical male friendships, vulnerability.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, just hanging out with you guys and sharing that kind of relationship, which is quite. Thank you.
Yeah.
It was quite new to me. Yeah.
It was very, it didn't feel, as cheesy as it sounds, it didn't feel like we were on set, we were acting, or we were like going to play. We were going to go have fun. And also, something that Naqqash always does, he never says action. He just says whenever you guys are ready. And so we're just in the room together, just chatting.
And that's something we were saying the other day, wasn't it? That it's not like he's trying to like curate a scene and then like bring a camera in to capture it. He's sharing all of these ideas and inspirations and bleeding this energy out between us. That I think that's something that I'm carrying into my work moving forward. It's this sense of like allowing the thing to happen. We put a lot of pressure on ourselves, I think, in making a film to like, you know, set a schedule and budget, and we need to like make sure we know what it is to get it. But sometimes you squash it by working in that way.
Yeah.
And I think also that linking to like letting our guard down with masculinity and things like that. Somehow there's a connection for me in that.
But was it a bit of a jump scare when you heard action for the first time on the next one? You're like, wait, what am I doing?
Because action is a very
It's violent.
energetic kind of...
It makes you feel like you have to do something.
You see red, you're like, oh,
like action.
yeah,
Like,
exactly.
when actually it's the opposite. It's what you're saying about capturing somebody not wanting to be perceived. Because we don't all walk around life imagining there's a camera.
Yeah.
Well,
We're about to meet someone like, okay, action. Right, hey, how's it going?
Well, I think a lot of this film and the way Naqqash works as well is about, would you rather someone fit into your frame that you've perfectly created, or would you rather meet them halfway and bring that collaboration? You know what I'm saying?
Yes. Well, give it up to the anti-action heroes, please.